Love that photo. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Muscarab channel. My name is Ramon, and welcome to another episode of In Orbit, a show in which we chat with people from the divination community about life, divination, and more. If you're watching a replay, thank you very much for tuning in. And today's guest is the awesome Shari from Voices from the Swamp. Hello, Shari. How are you today?
Hello, Ramon. I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. It's kind of hot over here in Pennsylvania. It's
It's
going to
kind
be
of real
a
hot over here.
thunderstorm, but it must be hotter over there, right? You're in
Yeah,
Louisiana.
we went up into the 90s today,
Wow.
uh, and
Uh-huh.
that's actually on the cooler side. Usually it
Is
gets
it?
hotter than that, but yeah.
Uh-huh. What's the
It's not
hottest
so
it
much the
gets?
heat, it's the fact that you got like 80-90% humidity to go with
It,
it. That's what makes it so bad.
it's the humidity. The humidity makes it much worse, and I know because I was born and raised in the Caribbean in Puerto Rico, and over there the humidity is horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you take a shower and once even you
Your
once you
clothes
came out of the
refuse to
bathroom, you're
dry off.
sweating. It's horrible. Yeah.
I grew up on the
So,
Gulf Coast, so yeah, I get it. I mean,
uh, it's terrible. So let's say hi to some people. We have Ange here from Roots and Waves. Hello,
I
Ange. Great
am.
seeing you. We have Jen, Joyful Journey. We have the awesome Nancy
I'm
from A Crone's
Nancy.
Intuition. The interview I had before this one, the previous show was with Nancy. Check it out because it was a beautiful interview.
I've got it saved. Like I said, it's in the queue. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I'm so
Uh,
behind.
yeah.
I'm so behind watching shows. So I
And
try
we'll
to
say hi
catch
to.
them best I
Mhm.
can.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited to share with you because I love your channel, and I think I've been to your channel once
A
or
couple times
twice.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You did
and
like a
especially
regular show, and then you came on my night owl show.
yes, yes, on a slumber party.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
For
night I
my
didn't
slumber
bring my
party.
teddy bear, so next time you invite me, I
Yeah.
will.
Every Saturday night, you got to show up in your PJs. Teddy bears
Uh-huh.
allowed.
Yeah, and lately you've been doing it with Irish Granny, right?
Helen comes on a lot because
Uh-huh.
she's on the West Coast, so
Uh-huh.
it's not that late for her, and she's a night owl like me anyway. So she's always like,
Mm-hmm.
"You want company?" I'm like, yeah, come on. So
Oh my God.
and
I'm a night
anytime
owl
anybody
myself.
wants to, I tell everybody, if you want to come on, give me a holler. I'll get you in the door. So I'm more than willing to have whoever wants to pop in and come spend some time with us. Keeps me from falling asleep. It's like I do good for a little while and then I start drooping and everybody starts teasing me. Then
Uh,
Sherry, go to bed. You're falling asleep. And I'll look up and I'll see the chat. They're all fussing at me. It's time to go to bed. Like, okay, I guess so. If y'all are noticing it,
and you have a lot of people that stop by to watch the shows, like
I
a lot.
do. That's
Yeah,
what
sometimes I
surprised
pop
me
in and
when I
it's like more than 50 people, and the chat is jumping, and it's crazy.
I know that blows my mind. When the first couple of times I did it, I just did it as a pop up, just
Uh
like
huh.
I'm awake. There's nothing to do. There's nobody
Right.
on. Screw it. I'm gonna jump online and see if
Mm-hmm.
anybody else is awake too. And I guess within like 15 minutes, I had probably 15, 20 people in
Mm-hmm.
there, and I was like, "What are y'all doing up so late?" They're like, "What are you doing up so late?" So
Uh
it
huh.
just kind of started from there. And after I did it a couple of times, just as a pop up, everybody started fussing at me, saying, "You need to do this every Saturday." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, what are we going to call it then?" So the chat is who named the show. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I just took several different people's suggestions for a name and kind of mixed it together, and that's how we came up with Night Owl Slumber Parties. So
It's
and
perfect.
they love it. So and I have a blast doing it because it's
Mm-hmm.
an anything goes show. We'll talk about anything. Some weeks it's oracle card pulls. Some weeks it's the naughty cards pull. And,
Mm-hmm.
some weeks we just sit and chat. We don't ever get around to the cards. It just depends on
Uh
what's
huh.
what's happening that night.
And
So
you discuss a lot of topics,
yeah,
politics, life, the recent news, divination, everything. A little bit of everything.
yeah, I'm open to anything. I, you know, I, I'm
Mm-hmm.
I have always been an avid learner, I guess you could say, especially when it comes to current events or historic stuff. I've always been really interested, like right now, I'm involved in Vice President Harris's campaign for president.
Mm-hmm.
Already joined her campaign. I'm working on a one of the online things that they're doing. As soon as I can figure out how to make it work, I'll be online doing that too. I have to
Yeah.
be careful when it comes to political rallies and stuff, though, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
civil service for my job. So
Yeah.
there's a fine line you can't cross. You have to be kind of
Mm-hmm.
careful. And but online stuff, that's not a. They don't seem to think that's a big deal. So
Right.
um,
Right. So your channel,
mm,
Voices from the Swamp,
yes,
where does it come from? Why? First of all, what makes a swamp a swamp? And we were talking about this on a previous channel, but for people who
well,
don't know, people who are
a
from the
swamp,
city,
a
what
swamp,
is a swamp?
a swamp is basically uh, a, a, a brackier version of marshlands.
Hmm.
So you get marshlands, you get swamps, you've got um, fresh water and salt water that are mixing. It's usually where the sea level is at the lowest, and so there's a lot more water. I mean, here I'm 30 miles from the Gulf. If you
Hmm.
could go in a straight line, you dig 6 inches in the yard, you hit water. Water starts seeping out. Just that's how low we are. We're
Yeah.
right at sea level or just below sea level. Um, Eventually, we'll all be underwater, according to what Nostradamus and Edgar Casey said. We'll all be treading water before long. But a swamp is usually just it's more like a very like I said, kind of a brackish, which
Hmm.
is dark, kind of muddy water. We have cypress trees and stuff that grow. We have cypress swamps down here. They
Hmm.
do have different kinds of swamps, and you have all kinds of things that live and grow in the swamps, and things that swim around and will eat you if you're not careful. And
There's a big
it's
biodiversity in the swamps.
it's
You know,
huge. I
it
mean, because
is.
you get different
Hmm.
sections of the swamp, you're going to get different kinds of what's growing around you and what may be crawling next to you.
Right.
Um, it's just very hi Gerald. It's just very different
Hmm. Yeah.
than
And why
most people
voices?
realize.
Yeah. And why voices from the swamp?
Well, I
What voices? What?
literally live 3 miles from the largest swamp in the largest land-based swamp in the continental U.S.,
Mm,
and that's the Atchafalaya. 18-mile
okay.
bridge to cross it to
The
get from my
Chafalaya
city to
Basin.
Baton Rouge. Yeah, the Atchafalaya
Yeah.
Basin. It's a 18-mile bridge to get across it to get to Baton Rouge, which is the state capital.
Hmm.
Um,
It has
and
1.4 million acres.
yeah, yeah, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
gigantic. Um, and because I literally live just a couple of miles from it, when I finally decided to do the channel and everything, and I was talking with my son, and I was like, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to name this. And he says, well, go off of your avatar name that you've been using online back in 1999 when we got our first computer.
Uh huh.
And he was like, you have to have an online name. And I'm like, what's wrong with my name? He's like, no, you need an online name. And I'm like, I don't know what to call myself. He said, Swamp Lady. And I'm like, okay, that fits. So you can find me in various different modes of social media
Hmm.
of some form of Swamp Lady.
Swamp
That's
Lady.
probably me.
Different variations
Um,
of the name.
Different
Right.
variations. Most of the time, my Swamp Lady doesn't have an A in swamp. It's just
Hmm. Swamp.
SWMPLADY.
Swamp.
Um, Sometimes there's numbers or initials before or after it. It just depends. Um, but since I already kind of had that avatar online, and I thought, okay, swamp lady, what can I, what can I do? And then it hit me. And it was actually, I'm sure it was my guides just finally hit me with, dummy,
Hmm.
you're right next to the damn swamp and you hear us talking to you. You hear voices from the swamp. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I do. I just never thought of it that way. So blame my guides. They're the ones that gave it to me. They were like, yeah, we're right here. You hear us. You're in the swamp. You're right there. So,
Hmm.
and that's how the name came about. And I will admit, I do tend to get attention drawn if I pop in somewhere and they, for even if it's not um, tarot or psychic related or anything like that, if I go into other chats with other things, invariably someone will say, voices from the swamp. What do you do? And I'll say, I'm a psychic and a medium and I read tarot and oracle cards. And they're like, why the swamp? And I'm like, because I live in the swamp. It's right there, and so that usually gets a little bit of attention. And
It
um,
does.
Miss Tarot D is constantly fussing at me to use my niche. The first time he said that to me, I'm like, my what? What are you talking about? He says, you're Cajun. You're in the
Hmm.
swamp. You're in Louisiana. Why don't you have voodoo stuff? And I went, oh, I didn't think about that. He's like, yeah, you need to bring all that stuff out.
Hmm.
And you've got a niche. You need to use it. And
Yeah.
so my first voodoo doll is my little Wonder Woman voodoo doll,
Oh my God.
Wonder Girl.
Hmm. And can you explain to us what a voodoo doll is? A voodoo doll.
The original intention of a voodoo doll was made for healing and blessings.
Hmm.
Someone would make a doll, like they would make a doll for, say, your mom wanted to make sure that you were going to be blessed in your new place that you're living or in your new job or whatever. Or if you were sick and she wanted to make sure you had healing, she couldn't be there with you, she would make a doll and she would create a doll for whatever intention that she put into it, for you to be blessed, for you to be healed, for good things to come to you, for the right person to find you, whatever intention you wanted. And then you would be sent the doll. And so then you have that doll, and that's like kind of like your teddy bear at night when you go to
Hmm.
bed, right? It's something that you keep with you that provides you with blessings and with protection. It's a way to ward off evil spirits, that kind of thing. Now, Hollywood got a hold of the voodoo and turned it into the monster that they've created. And so
As they
most
always
people,
do.
yeah, most people see voodoo, look at voodoo, and they think evil, black magic, zombies, da 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 da. And it's like that's not voodoo. That's not what voodoo dolls were made for. It was made of a way of being able to help people. It was a means of kind of like swamp witch doctors or medicine men. That
Hmm.
Native Americans have medicine men. Other cultures have um, swamp witches or just medicine witches, whatever they would call them. Throughout the eons, they've been around. We've been around since the beginning. Um, and we were usually the ones people would come to when they were sick, when they were hurt, when they needed help with something. They would go see their local witch doctor to either create a spell or create a tincture for them to eat or drink, or create a doll for them to carry around, or some other token of luck. Native Americans tend to carry their little medicine bags, and it's not that there's anything extraordinary about what's in the bag. It's just items that are placed there that mean something to the person carrying it.
Hmm.
Could be a feather, could be rocks, could be just any number of things that would mean something to them in their culture. And that's what originally voodoo was for. In the Cajun culture, uh, The witch doctors are called treaters, and they basically do the same thing. They go do healings. I don't think we have a sports team in this state that doesn't have its own treater on call 24/7. If a player gets hurt, they're right there to come do their magic, right, and
Really?
do whatever. Oh
Wow.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
you a lot of your restaurants and businesses in town, when they open a new restaurant or open a new business, they not only have the local parish priest come and bless it, they call the local treater to come and bless it because they
Wow.
figure I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
covered from all directions,
Yeah.
right? Um, from all sides, doesn't
Uh-huh.
matter,
Yeah.
however you want to look at it, and that makes a big difference. I have firsthand witnessed a treater heal my son when he was like 6 or 7, I guess. I don't know, something like that. And he started complaining one afternoon that his ear hurt. And when I went to go see what was wrong with his ear, he was burning up with fever. His ear was all red and swollen looking. And so I told his dad, "Oh my God, we got to take him to the emergency room. Something's wrong." And so, as we're in the process of trying to get everything together to go to the emergency room, the little lady that lived next door to us, who was a treater, and I knew she was different. I just didn't know that's what she was. She
Mm-hmm.
come knocking on the door wanting to borrow like an egg or a cup of sugar or something. And we're like, yeah, come on in, help yourself. You know where the kitchen is. You know, take whatever you need. And she's like, well, what's going on? What's wrong? And we told her. And she said, oh, well, can I pray over him? And my husband and I kind of looked at each other. We're like, yeah, sure. It couldn't hurt, you know. And she sat down with him. She put him in her lap. She laid his head down in her lap. And she started rubbing her hands together and she put her hands on him and she started speaking in tongues. And um, and she did this for a couple of minutes and then sat him back up and said, okay, you should be okay now. And she got her thing. She thanked us and she left. And before we could say goodbye to her and turn around to load my son in the car, he was back up and normal, like normal, jumping and bouncing around just like a normal kid.
Wow.
No fever, no earache, no nothing. I mean, it was gone that fast.
How old was he
And
at the time?
he was 6 or 7 at the time. He was just
Wow.
starting
So,
school.
uh-huh.
And I just remember my husband and I looking at each other going, okay, I guess that worked, you know, because
Uh-huh.
we didn't have a clue. I mean, um, we were both kind of shocked, you know, it was pretty stunning. And I've seen other people that have that gift to be able to heal, do that with other folks. It's truly amazing when you witness it. And the energy that you can feel just in the atmosphere around you when it's happening is palpable. I mean, it's almost like you can reach out and touch it like a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we all have that ability from what I've learned. We all have the ability to heal. It's just a matter of believing it and strengthening that gift, just like being psychic or being a medium or being able to intuit cards or to read, to read your pendulum or use your, where is it, your crystal ball, whatever it is that you use to divine with, whatever divination tool you use, being able to heal is one of the items in your toolbox that most people don't realize they have.
Mm-hmm.
And unless something drastic happens, um, they rarely go look in that toolbox for that little thing to pull out and say, "Oh, I'll just heal you." Um, since I've learned that we all have this ability now, whenever it's just little things like a headache or a stub toe or whatever, I'll go and just put my hands on somebody and just talk to spirit for a few minutes and say, okay, just let's just take this away. And I'll feel it for a minute or so and then it's gone. And
Mm.
it's gone from the person I've done it with. I've only been able to do it a few times, so it's not like something I advertise, but it does work, but it requires a lot of energy. It's like after it happens, I'm exhausted. It just wipes me out.
Mm.
Um, it's very similar to when you're doing mediumship. Some people they blink and boom, they're there because they've exercised that gift to the point that they can open and close that portal no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Others of us who are still new at that, we have to really think and focus and concentrate on it to get it to work. It's sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So it's kind of like what you were telling me the last time we got together, and I'd just gotten my crystal ball, and I said something about, yeah, I'm thinking about checking it out, seeing if I can do something with it. And you were like, oh yeah, I use a crystal ball. You just got to do this and you got to do this. And I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And it just gave me ideas of how to go about it that I didn't know before
Yeah.
because it was something brand new for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, but
it's good.
you're geographically in a special place that magic and spirituality is part of the culture.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
And
think
the
that
fact that
maybe
I'm part Cherokee doesn't hurt.
uh-huh.
So
So it amplifies your abilities because there's all these currents of energy and around it.
right.
It might be easier for you to tap into. Let me ask you
I
this:
just
how?
I just had a
Mhm,
full Reiki healing from
mhm,
Cali Healer. Kelly.
mhm,
She does a show with Allie pretty regularly. And she does like we're talking this is a 3 hour deal that we went through for her to do a full healing from head to toe. And as we're going into it and she's explaining, the blocks and the cords that she's coming up against as she moved through my body, at one point she stopped and she was like, do you have Native American blood in you? And I'm like, yeah, I do. She said, that explains it then. She said, because your native guides were there and they said that in a past life you were a full-blooded Native American.
wow.
And that's
Mhm,
why you feel it so strongly still. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And she says, in fact, she says, your name was One Arrow. I was like, damn, they gave you my name? She said, yeah, they just told me your name. And I'm like, okay,
one
I'll have to
arrow.
remember that.
Uh
So
huh.
that was really cool. It's like, because nobody's ever given me a name before.
Uh
So
huh.
it's like, okay, One Arrow. So either I got people with one shot or I only had one arrow and had to run after
That's
it.
all you had,
So
one arrow,
that's all I had. I have one arrow. You better make good on it, right?
and then you were
Um,
gone. So, how did
one
you
arrow, and you
start?
better hope you hit it or head for the hills and run as fast as you can.
That's all it takes. One sometimes. How did you start in divination?
I've always had the gift,
Uh huh.
as my family called it, the gift.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was about 4, I would hear a man talk to me. Think Darth Vader's voice, that kind of voice, that deep male bass voice that would just talk to me. And I would talk back. And people would walk through the room and stop and say, who are you talking to? I'd say, God. And they'd say, oh, okay. And like, not a big deal. Didn't make a big
Mm-hmm.
thing out of it because that's who I thought I was talking to was God. And he didn't tell me any different. He just talked to me. And so when I was about 9, I had my first experience of what I called a deja vu experience when we went 4 states away to visit friends. And we arrived in the middle of the night. And when we walked in the front door, the minute I walked through the door, I stopped and was like, oh, I've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was like, no, you've never been here. We've never been to Florida. We've never been to this house. I'm like, oh, no, I've been here before. And I proceeded to tell them every room in the house, whose room it was, what was in each room, described them to a T. And I remember everybody with their mouths hanging open. And my mother's just looking at me and she goes, oh, you have the gift. And that's all she said. Not another word was spoken, no explanations, no nothing.
It was like natural, like normal, like oh,
It was like
yes.
it was like she was
Uh-huh.
just acknowledging, oh, you got it too. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And but she didn't explain anything. And I was like, kind of freaked out because everybody else was freaked out. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, not everybody can do this. Maybe I should keep it to myself, kind of thing. And when I was about 12, I discovered that I could leave my body and float on the ceiling, astro travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just float up and hang out on the ceiling, and I would watch myself sleep on the bed, which was cool. I never left the room because I was terrified I'd get lost, and that if I get I get lost so easy. And I was terrified if I got lost, what would happen to my body?
Yeah.
Would it die?
Uh-huh.
What would happen? So
Something will
I never,
possess it. Yeah.
yeah, I never left the room, but I would just like hang out on the ceiling and just I'd watch people come in and out of the room and whatever. And it just me looked like me asleep on the bed. Nobody ever did
Mm-hmm.
or said anything. And I did that for the longest time. And then when puberty hit, it kind of went away. Um and then other things started happening and I started shoving them in the closet and keeping the door locked. It was like, no, I don't see it. I don't want to know that. I don't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not real. It's something my brain's making up. I just refuse to accept it. And I did that most of my life up until my 40s when I had moved to Arizona and I lived in Phoenix for 10 years. And when I was living there, we were right next to one of the uh, reservations, like 2 blocks from one of the reservations. Yeah, I do, Jay. You got that right, Gerald. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we're dervish all the time sometimes. Um, and I would go over to the reservation to buy cigarettes because it was cheaper. And so it got to where I would always run over to the little store over there just to give them my business for whatever I needed, milk or bread or anything simple you'd get at the 7-Eleven store.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go over there and I got to know the guys that owned and ran the store. And I went in. My mom had come out by that point. She was staying with me out in Phoenix. And I had gone in one day to pick something up. And one of the guys saw me and was like, hey, hey, come see, come see. And so I walked over and he was giving me this calendar. He says, this is for our special customers. All the artwork in here is from the native tribe. It's all of the local artists' work in it. And there were some were pictures, some were watercolors, some were charcoal drawings. Um, and I was like, cool, how much does it cost? He said, no, no, it's free. It's just for our special customers. I was like, oh, wow, okay, I guess I'm a special customer. How about that? And
Well, you
so
said it.
he said it. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I went home and I started showing it to my mom, and we're flipping through looking at all the pictures. And one of the pictures, just when it flipped open to that picture, I literally physically felt the sensation of something grabbing me. And very clear in my head, I heard, "We're your guides." And it's a picture of I don't know if you can see it. May not work. No, it's not gonna
Mm-hmm.
work. It's up on the wall. But it's a picture that it's like a watercolor picture.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see Native Americans like chiefs or something with the big headdresses and whatnot, and what looks like horses in the pictures, but everything looks like windswept. Like there's a rough wind that's just blowing everything. The way the
Mm-hmm.
picture is made, and I was just mesmerized by that picture. I couldn't stop looking at it. In fact, I refused to use the calendar because I didn't want the picture to get messed up. Well, my mother snuck it out of the house, and she worked at Joann's at the time. And she took it to work, and she took the picture out of the calendar, trimmed it up, and she matted and framed it in this huge picture frame,
Wow.
and really made it look nice. And then brought it back and gave it to me. I think it was Mother's Day or my birthday or something like that because they're very close together. And she gave it to me as a gift with that. In fact, when you look at the real picture, if you get up close enough, you can see the little hole where the to
You
put the
still
pin
have
in
it.
it to hang the
It's that
calendar.
you still
Yeah,
have it. That one. Wow.
just that one. That's the only thing I saved out of that calendar. The rest of the pictures were nice, but I think I gave them out to different people who like different pictures in it.
Hmm.
But that one, no, that was mine, and I just knew it. You can ask any of my family anytime I've ever moved. That's the first thing I make sure gets packed up right, and it's the first thing that gets unpacked to make sure it's okay.
Hmm.
I freak out if I can't find my picture. And it sits right above my bed. It's the first thing I see in the morning, the last thing I see at night. And they talk to me, and right about the time that happened was about the time that all the ghost shows started up on
Hmm.
TV, Ghost Hunters and all that stuff. And I would watch them, and I've always been just intrigued with paranormal because I've lived in a haunted house and I've seen ghosts. So
Oh, we gotta
I knew
hear
it
that.
was real.
You gotta tell
So
us
it was
about
like,
that.
I had to watch. I'll get into that. Um, but as I slowly started getting back into it, little things started happening, and I still kept trying to shove it back in the closet. It's not real. It's not real. While I'm watching something and saying, yeah, I believe in that completely, but I didn't want to listen to the spirits talking to me. It was like, no, no, I don't hear that. Go away.
Mhm.
Um, Long story short, my mother had moved back to Louisiana, and then she got really sick, and I got a call from my brother that finally said, "You have to come home. I can't deal with this on my own." And so I left Arizona. I came back to Louisiana to take care of my mom, and then when she passed, just before she passed in June, COVID hit in January, February, and everything went into lockdown. And at that point, I was really starting to hear things and trying my damnedest to ignore it. And I fell into this community online, just channel surfing. YouTube was still fairly new. And I came across a reader who did political tarot, which I didn't know existed. I was like,
Mhm.
progressive political tarot? That's a thing. Wow. And I started watching, which led to another channel, which led to another channel, and on down the road it went. And I watched for probably a good 6 months before I said anything.
Mhm.
And when I finally started chatting, the first time I started to chat, suddenly I was getting chat messages back saying, "Well, it took you long enough to say something." I was like, "Well, how did you know I was here?" You'd be like, "We're psychic, remember?" We all know when you're
Duh.
here and when you're not. It's like, duh. And one of the ladies, her name's Angela Cardamancy Mesquite, is how she's known. She
Uh-huh.
does a lot of shows with Gerald.
Mhm.
She started messaging me saying, you're psychic, right? And I'm like, no, no, no. She's like, yeah, you are. She says, you're a reader, right? And I'm like, I don't know anything about tarot cards. I've never even held a deck of cards in my hand. And she's like, give me your address. She sent me 2 decks of cards.
Wow.
And I
What
got the
decks were
cards,
they?
and I messaged her back and I said, okay, now what? She said, just start playing with them. Just mess with them, hold them, shuffle them, put cards out. I'm like, I don't know what it means. And she says, just watch other readers. When they throw cards on the screen, you do your cards. Are you getting the same cards? Are you getting the same messages? She says, and eventually it'll just start coming to you. Just go from there. And that's basically how I did it. And I finally realized, okay, yeah, I guess I'm psychic, and I kind of cracked the door open a little bit and got hit with a marching band. Boom! Here they all
Mhm.
came. It was like finally she's letting us out, and I literally had to tell them, okay, guys, one at a time. Y'all are overwhelming me to the point that I'm paralyzed. I don't know what to do first or what to do next. It was very discombobulating, I guess you could say. It was weird. Um,
I have a
and
comment
so they
here from Ange. I remember meeting you in the chats for the first time. You've always been so friendly, and like you explained, you were so willing to learn. So glad you found this community and are using your gifts.
thanks you,
Beautiful.
Ange. That's another Ange. Yeah,
Uh
she's been
huh.
around a while too. Um,
And
and that's basically been it. Just learning as I go. When the mediumship stuff started up, and I was like, okay, this is wild. I don't know what to do with this. And I mentioned it to Sun Psychic Jean, and she's like, oh, you just got to open and close the flap. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what flap? She says, the flap, your third eye flap. You open and close it to let them in to talk to you. I'm like, okay, how do you do that? She says, it'll come to you. She says, everybody's different. And so I don't have control over my flaps. Sometimes it's wide open and sometimes it's not. So
Mm.
I tell people when I'm doing personal readings, it's like, I'll try to do a mediumship. I can't promise you it's going to come across. Sometimes I hear them and sometimes I don't. Uh, Thankfully, I don't see them. I just hear them, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing. I don't think I'd want to see them, especially if they look like what the little boy saw in The Sixth Sense. I don't think I would like that. Um, my mother's gift was visions. She would have visions of people dying. She would see their death, especially if it was like a traumatic death before it would happen. And she hated it. That's probably why she never talked about it. And hi,
Hi, Amanda.
Amanda. And about 6 months ago, I started getting visions. I was like, okay, mom, you don't have to pass it all over to me now.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah, no, it's yours now. You take it, see what you can do with it. So
And how was that? What was the experience? If you want to share with us.
um, I saw I saw Prince William getting coronated to be king, and
Uh-huh.
it blew me away because it the queen was still alive back when
Right.
when I saw that. It was just before she died. So I guess it's been a little longer than 6 months. But and I was just doing something normal and wasn't even thinking about them, and it just like a full 4K movie in your head suddenly. And it was
Mm-hmm.
I just saw him as still a young man getting coronated. I was like, whoa, that's kind of wild.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see what
How?
happens. It didn't give me a timeline. I just saw them going through the motions, which is weird because I didn't really know what that would look like. And then
Were
when
you, were
Prince
you
Charles
following?
became,
So,
no, I mean,
no.
the regular scuttlebutt that you hear going around
Right.
about the royal family, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like reading into them or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when the queen died, I remember thinking that's so weird. There's always just been a queen my whole lifetime. There's always been a
Mm-hmm.
queen
Yeah.
because she became queen before I was born. And when Prince Charles became King Charles, and I watched the coronation for that, because then I was interested. Well, did what I see? Maybe I was seeing his coronation and not William's. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't him. I mean, but I saw a lot of the same similar things that they were doing for the coronation. It was like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
saw that. Okay, I saw that. I didn't see that part, but and I didn't know the first thing about any of that stuff. I mean, I'm not a big royalty fan, I guess you could call it, or anything. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, okay, whatever. And we don't have kings here, so I'm not worried about it. And
Right.
but it was just wild. And that's all I've ever gotten on it. It was just that one time I got a vision of it.
Mm.
And so I don't know if it means King Charles is going to pass or if he's going to just step aside and tell William take over or what. But it was just he was still a fairly young man. It wasn't like he was 30 years from now seeing it happen. It's like fairly
It's a matter of
soon.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
So,
now with everything else, it's I feel like, yeah, okay. I don't know why they showed it to me, but they did.
mhm.
So
Tell us about that process when you got your tarot cards and the experience of learning about the cards, getting acquainted with it, starting reading them, and eventually how did it branch out into other forms of divination?
well, in the beginning it was just like a deck of cards. I mean, I
Hmm.
didn't fortunately it wasn't like a great big deck that I couldn't handle and shuffle. It was a little small deck that Angela
Right.
sent me. and I could actually hold them in my hands and shuffle them like a regular deck of cards. And I still go blank on what the cards mean. There's still a lot of times I have to stop and look it up just because
Mm-hmm.
it's gone. It's not there. I don't know. It's like when I read, I can do a reading and 5 minutes later, I can't tell you what I said or who I said it to. It comes, it goes, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very rare that I remember anything I've said. Um, and I just started. I would sit and watch people, watch other readers when they would do their shows, and I would just sit and I would shuffle and I would shuffle, and then when a question would come up, I would put my cards out, and it was wild because sometimes I'd pull the same cards that they were pulling. I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of weird. That still happens today when I read with other people. When we'll be pulling the same cards, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you can't make this up. I
Yeah,
mean,
I know. Yeah,
we're
I had that happen
two
to me
opposite
too.
sides of the globe here. How are we getting
Mm-hmm.
the same cards? Um, and it was just a matter of stop and looking it up. What does that mean? And then trying to figure out, well, how do I relate it to what the question was asked? And so I was still very kind of black and white with it, kind of just cut and dried. I was trying to memorize, and that's never been a strong point for me. And then I did a show with Jeffrey. Um, Ripe Color is the name of his show. He's also an
Mm-hmm.
artist. Um, and I did a show where we just talked about one card, and that was the Hangman. And I learned more about that one card than I ever thought possible because I kept thinking, an hour on one card? What are we going to talk about? But
Mm-hmm.
it was amazing the things that I learned that day. I mean, because Jeffrey brought out things that, as an artist, I never thought to look at that way. Like, well, what color are all the cards? Are they all the same color? Do they all
Mm-hmm.
have mountains in the background? Do they all have water in them? Are they all looking in the same direction? Are they all, I mean, just all the little things that, really experienced readers pick up on and probably don't even realize that they're picking up on it.
The
And it
details.
just, it opened my eyes to a different way of looking at the cards. It was like, okay, I don't have to be so cut and dried on, well, this card means this and this card
Mm-hmm.
means that, and they don't seem to mesh. It allowed me to let my intuitive reading come to life on it, and just kind of go, okay, well, maybe that's what it means in the book, but that's not what I'm getting right now for this
Mm-hmm.
reading. I'm getting a completely different, description in my head, and so I've learned to go with that. um
So
Sometimes
you're
I still
saying,
look it up.
yeah,
It's
you're saying
just,
that you read more intuitively.
yeah, more so than I
Mm-hmm.
do. I I just was never good at memorization. It was
Mm-hmm.
never my strong point for anything. Um, Even back in school, that was probably the worst thing. It was like, yeah, no, I don't memorize. Um, and I learned that if I just take it one card at a time and just kind of study up on one card, and then more things stick in my head the next time I come across that card in a reading, because now I know all the little ins and outs about that one card. So I have several different books on tarot and the meanings that I can go and look at for just one card.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's a Facebook group that I'm in that the guy that runs it, he started doing that just one card at a time, like once a month or something. We get together, and the last one we did was the Nine of Wands,
Mm.
and the whole discussion was, talking about. And there was like 6 or 7 of us that met that day, and everybody talking about their different interpretations of
Perspective.
what the
Uh-huh.
Nine of Wands meant. And we got into the backgrounds, and and they were talking about, it was just a plain blue sky. There's nothing in it, and I'm looking at it. I'm looking at. He was using a traditional Rider Waite deck, and I was
Uh-huh.
using a Rider Waite deck, but it was like a gilded version or something.
Uh-huh.
So it was a
One
little
of
bit
those
fancier.
redrawn, and they have like
Yeah.
different
And so
details.
as I'm looking at it, and I said, well, my card doesn't exactly look like your card. And
Hmm.
so they were like, "Well, hold it up and let's see it." And so I hold it up, and several people were like, "Oh, well, there's clouds in your card. There's clouds in the background, but there's not clouds on this card, you know." And then I noticed, I said, "Well, with the bandage around his head on the regular right weight, it's just a white bandage on his head. But in the card that I had, the part that goes over the forehead has a faint pink tint to the bandage, like
Yeah.
an old
Like,
wound that had been bleeding,
like
you know."
bloody, yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
like
uh-huh.
a bloody wrap around his head.
Uh-huh.
And so that got us all off on a whole different direction of what else were we seeing between different, other people were pulling out different decks and looking at their card to see, well, where is mine different, and that's when everybody kind of was like, oh wow, well, it just depends on what deck you're using as to what you see and how that artist depicted that deck and that
Uh-huh.
card, which is really fascinating because you get totally different meanings off of
Yes.
different
I mean,
decks.
the interpretation of the images does have an impact over the traditional keywords or associations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It adds another
Um,
level to the already complex level of the meanings of the tarot. Which deck are
exactly,
you?
yeah.
What are you currently using right now as a tarot deck?
Right now, I'm
Do you
using
have
a
it there
couple
with
of
you?
different ones. One is one I've been saving up for months to get, and I
I'm gonna
finally got it, and
I'm
it's
gonna put you on
called
the big screen.
the
Mhm.
Sanctus Concordio Tarot deck. Kind of expensive. You can only get it from the person who makes it through their website. The book that comes with it is a separate cost. It doesn't come as a set to go together.
Mm.
But like, let's see here. Let's pull some out. Um, like, here is the Magician,
Wow, that's
and
beautiful.
it's beautiful, like
Mhm.
Renaissance type artwork on these decks. Um, okay, like here's the High Priestess,
Wow, that's gorgeous.
and there's an astrologer that I watch online. And of course, now that I say it, I'm going to go completely blank on her channel name. Um, but she's really good, and this is her main tarot deck that she uses. Uh, she uses a variety of different oracle cards with her readings, but this is the tarot deck that she uses. And I I messaged her one day and I said, I've got to know where you got those cards. Those are beyond beautiful. And
Mhm.
so she sent me the website, and she said, well, if you go in and use my code, you can get, I think it was like 10% off or something.
Mhm.
Because the cards were like $45 for the cards. And the book was another $25 to go with
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
So we're,
That's happening a lot. Is that they're expanding a lot in the text that they have to make a separate book by itself.
oh yeah,
Um.
and the book is great. I mean, it gives like, you get the full colored picture
Mhm.
as well as a complete breakdown, both upright and reversed, for the cards.
And the
Um,
interpretation of the artist too, because that's an
yeah,
opportunity for
exactly,
them to add a little bit more of the additional meaning that they're adding to the image.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's and there's so many.
Shortly after I started actually doing my channel and kind of reading as I stumbled along and felt like a fool because everybody else seemed to just whip right through it, and I was like, I look like an idiot. I'm not getting this. I discovered oracle cards, and
Mhm.
they just really, really called out to me. And I thought, oh, I'm supposed to be using those. And so I started shopping around trying to find what would be a good deck to start out with. When Allie from uh,
Heart and soul connected. Uh-huh.
Heart and Soul Connected had a little contest where um, she drew names from everybody that put their name on a list for it, and one person would win a tarot deck and one person would win an oracle deck. I won the oracle deck. So
Mhm.
that was my first oracle deck, and I still have it. I still use it from time to time. Um, I can't remember the name of it, but it's another really good deck. Um, I tend to go for very color saturated cards. Um, some people like the very plain or the very black and white or
Muted
cut and
or
dried type.
mhm,
There's not a lot of uh, there's not a lot to the imagery, and those are fine. I have several decks that are like that. I like them fine, but I really
connect
am
better
drawn
with.
to the really color saturated, intricate artwork that comes with
Uh-huh.
some decks, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm drawn to.
Uh-huh.
And there have been some decks I've bought, Oracle and Tarot, that I've gotten them, I've tried to use them, and it's like they just don't talk to
Doesn't
me
work.
at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And invariably, somebody will pop up in a chat somewhere and talk about that particular deck. Yeah, I've been wanting to get that deck. I'm just waiting to, have enough money to order it or something. And I'll just message them and say, send me your address. I got the deck, it's yours,
Mm-hmm.
and I just send it to
Rehome it.
them. Yeah, and just rehome it to somebody else. And I know somebody asked me, well, do you charge them? And I'm like, no. I said, it's a gift. I'm just giving it to them, just like I was
Mm-hmm.
given a gift when I
Yeah.
got my first cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, I said, so that's, and I've got far more than I need. And every time I buy a new deck, I hear Gerald's voice in my head.
How many do you
Purchase
have?
responsibly.
Yeah.
you
How many
know,
do you have?
over 100, I'm sure. I have no clue. I'd have to sit down and seriously count, and I'm kind of afraid to.
Uh-huh. I've always been more drawn to tarot than oracles, but lately
Well, there's,
I've been connecting better with oracles. Because there's so much variety, and the keywords that they use for each one of the cards and the messages. Because I mean, different tarot decks. Okay, the imagery. There's a lot of different interpretations of the Fool or all
oh,
78
yeah.
cards, and like which is like the main meaning of the cards. And even though the imagery might be different, but with oracles it's like something totally different. And I used to use them just as clarifiers, but over time seeing people in channels just reading with oracles is, I came to realize that it's just another fascinating form
Yeah,
of another tool.
it's just a different tool, a different way to use them.
Hmm.
Uh, I find it just depends on what kind of reading I'm doing as to if I'm going to use tarot cards or oracle cards. Sometimes when somebody asks a question, I'm just hearing use a tarot, and other times I'm hearing use your oracle.
Hmm.
There have been times I've been in the middle of shuffling and pulling, and I'll very clearly hear my guide say, "Wrong deck.
Do
Go
you
get the other
combine
deck." Sometimes, yeah, I
like
will. I
tarot
will
and
pull
oracle,
from.
other tools?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm in several different of each at that because just
Uh-huh.
if they tell me change decks, then I change
Right.
decks.
Uh-huh.
So
And what
um,
kind of topics are you drawn more in terms of oracles?
oracles are more on the personal side when it's personal
Mhm.
questions that somebody's asking.
Right.
That's when I really feel the oracle cards can kind of describe it a little better. When I do political shows for political readings, I tend to stick with the tarot. And then there's only a few of my tarot decks that I will use because
Hmm.
it's like I don't want to dirty up the other ones.
Yeah, I hear you. You don't want to get that
And I
energy on
bought this
the cards.
to use in between when I'm doing
Uh-huh.
readings. I bought myself a bell
Is that
that
how
I
you
can
clear
ring.
the energy from the
Yeah,
decks?
I do that. I
Okay.
just ring the little bell now.
I do the
And
three.
then
Three knocks
I
on
got
my
me,
decks.
I can't burn incense in the house because my brother's
Hmm.
allergic.
Yeah.
And so
Me neither. I can't. It'll
I
set
got
the
me
alarms.
got big, beautiful
Uh,
butterflies on it. But I got this, and I put some uh, white sage oil in it, and
do
so I
you
can
make it?
squirt that around.
Do you make
No,
it
I
or you
bought
buy it?
it. Airwick makes these little infusion thingies, and you can get all different scents. And they just came out with one that was white sage and something I don't remember. But you just open it up and it comes with a little bottle with
Mm-hmm.
oil in it, as you can see. Then you put it back in there and you pop the bottom back on, and you can set it for low, medium, or high. And see, it turns blue and it'll shoot out. It'll shoot out some mist of whatever scent you have. And so when I discovered that, I was like, wow. And then the last time I bought some refills, they had a white sage. I thought,
Mm.
oh, and so I had it and I used it, but I didn't want to use it that much, and I forget to turn the stupid thing off. And so I bought this little perfume bottle through Timu for like $3, and I just dumped the stuff in there. And
Uh-huh.
so now I just use that to squirt with. So
All
and
right. Popping in to say
and
hi to Miss
hi
Shari.
Heather.
Hey, Heather, how are you?
She's one of the first people I ever really read with was Heather.
Heather.
Um, yeah, she had reached out. We were both hanging out in the chat, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we both started reading online about the same time. Was it about the same time, Heather? I don't remember. It seems like it was. There was like a whole group of us that kind of were all hanging in the chat together on different shows, and that all kind of started our channels about the same time,
So
within a
it's
few
three
months of
years
each other.
now. Three
Yeah,
years.
3 years. It'll be 3 years end of August for me. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I knew it was. I knew we were close within a few months of each other. Um, uh, um,
So besides
Kevin,
tarot, uh,
Kevin, Loving Vibrations. He was another one that was hanging in the chat with all of us and started. I think he was the first one to start his channel, and then just took off like a rocket. I was like, "Damn, dude!" And but yeah, I mean, there's a
so
bunch of them
bes
that I
yeah,
still
there's a
watch
lot.
that I watched way back then. There's some that aren't around anymore for whatever reason. They either switched partners or they just quit reading, or whatever their
Mm-hmm.
issue was. I don't know. Um, but thank you, Heather. And but yeah,
Yeah.
so
So besides tarot and oracles, what other divinations tools do you use in your practice?
I have my pendulums, which
I'm gonna
I
put you on
I
the big
like,
screen.
and this is my copper one. I also
Mm-hmm.
have one that's a tiger's eye that fell up underneath something, and I can't get it out until I unload the bookcase and move everything. Um, I have another one that's a rose quartz that I'll use if it's like a love question type thing,
Mm-hmm.
something that's more in tune with the heart. I'll use the rose quartz. And then I have one that's just a plain um, smoky, not smoky quartz, but more like the just the crystal quartz, but the cloudy white color, not the clear. I
Mm-hmm.
have one like that I use for my pendulums. Uh, for my birthday, somebody sent me a pair of divining rods. So I haven't
Ah.
quite figured them out yet,
Uh-huh.
but I play around with them every now and again. Um, I've got the crystal ball, which I'm still kind of just playing with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it is not very big. It's just a small one. It came with a little stand, so it just sits on the little stand. And then I've got my praying turtle that I keep on my desk, and
You like
like
turtles,
in
right? I see them
yeah, I
in your
collect turtles.
earrings.
I collect turtles. Yeah,
I love
that was my
turtles.
late husband's nickname, was Turtle,
Turtle.
and that's what I always called him. Is what my family always called him. His real name was Carl, but my mother started it. She bought him a turtle one year for his birthday or something. I don't remember, when she was in New Mexico and they had stopped and visited. One of the tribes was having like a special thing going on, big powwow type thing, and she went with one of her cousins, I think it was, and she saw this little white clay turtle with a blessing painted on the back, and whichever language it was. I don't remember now what tribe it was. She stopped at, and she brought it home and gave it to him for his birthday, I think it was. And he was so flipped out over it and got such a big kick out of it. It became a game to where every event we would all go nuts trying to find a different kind of turtle to buy him. And I've got
Mhm.
boxes of turtles now, all shapes and sizes. And after he died, my son and I kept buying turtles. I don't know. I've got turtles from Guam that he brought me back when he was in the Navy. And uh, I've got a beautiful hand carved soapstone turtle with the baby inside. So it's like they had to carve it inside when they hollowed it out
Mhm.
before they carved the outside, which is really cool. That I
I
got in
love
Chicago.
turtles.
Yeah,
I
and I like
follow this
dragons too.
channel. I follow this channel of a guy who raises turtles. They're so
Oh,
beautiful.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
turtles are cool. They really are.
Hmm.
They're a lot more intriguing than people realize.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I also like dragons. I collect dragons as well. I have a beautiful uh, hand carved jade dragon that I've got up on my
What
bookcase.
about dragons? What's about dragons that attract you?
I don't know. I think dragons to me, I mean, a lot of people depict them as something bad or evil, but I've always seen them as just a very misunderstood but powerful creature
Hmm.
that just wants to be accepted for who they are. Is how it's always struck me, that they just want to be loved for being a dragon. And candy turtles. Oh, you meant the little chocolate turtles. Okay, I know what you're talking about. It took me a minute. Um, but I have this beautiful. It's about this,
Thank
about
you.
yay big. It's good, you know, pretty good size. Let me grab it real quick.
Yeah.
Y'all look at the mess behind the thingy here. If I can do this without knocking it
No, we
over.
can't see.
This comes from China. One of my faculty brought it to me as a thank you gift when he had gone home to China to visit family, and he came back with
Oh, that's
this.
beautiful. Let me put you on the big
Isn't
screen.
that gorgeous?
Is that jade?
Yeah,
It looks like, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
that's jade, and I don't even want to think about how much money it cost,
And it looks
but
hand carved. That's hand
yeah,
carved.
it is. Yeah, it's hand
Hmm.
carved jade,
Wow.
and he brought that to me, and I was like, I can't accept that. He's like, oh no, you have to take it, and I'm like, no, no, no. It's like I
You
can't.
brought it already. We
I
can't
said I
return
can't
it.
accept that. I said that's far too extravagant, of a gift. And he's like, no, no.
It's beautiful.
He's like, you helped me so much my first year, and helped me figure out what was going on when I didn't understand the language that well. And it's my way of saying thank you. My mother went with me to help pick it out. So
All right, everybody
I was
stop.
like,
We have Miss Tarot D here. Hello, Miss Tarot
hello, my
D.
love. How are you,
Great
my
seeing
darling?
you. I was thinking about you today. I haven't seen you in a while. Sending you blessings. We're happy to see you
I
here.
think about her all the time. So um, we got to do a phone call, darling. It's been a while since we yacked. And we'll get on FaceTime together and sit. And a lot of times she'll call me just as I'm getting off work.
Mm.
And so I go home with Miss Tarot D as
You
she
get calls
talks
from
to
this
me.
Tarot D.
I do, yeah.
I am officially jealous. I'd say. Oh
Yep,
no.
yep, yep. We do on Messenger, the FaceTime on Messenger.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. Uh, no, it's a trip. It was Sun Saturday, Sunday, one of those 2 days. Sunday was Sunday, and I was on air live doing a show, and
Mm-hmm.
my phone rings. I'm like, I turned the ringer off, and I looked over, and it was Linda G, and I'm like, Linda G's calling me, and I'm on a live stream. I can't answer. So I muted the phone, and then after she hung up, I grabbed the phone and I texted her, I'm on live. Can I call you back after the show? And she answered back, yeah, that's fine. So It's like I was tripping out. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe
uh,
Linda, she called me." I mean, we've emailed, whenever we've done a collab or something like that together, but
mhm.
she's never called me on the phone. And
So we're
a
at
little
1
silly.
hour and 5 minutes. Are you still okay
Yeah,
to
we
keep chatting?
can go as long as you want. I'm good.
All right. All right. So you were talking about we were talking about different styles with tarot and oracles, etc. What are your thoughts with AI decks, which are, you know, they're becoming much more accepted within the community? What are your personal thoughts? Do you have one? How do you feel about working with them?
What's an AI deck?
A artificial
Yeah, I
intelligence.
know what AI is, but I mean,
Uh-huh.
what's an AI deck? I've not heard of that.
Well, it's the artwork is AI generated, so that
Oh,
is not
oh,
hand
oh,
drawn. It's yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I know what you mean now. I didn't realize that's what they called it. Um, the um, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would depend on what the user does with it. I mean,
Hmm.
because a deck of cards is a deck of cards. It can have the most beautiful artwork in it or not, and it would just sit on the shelf and dry rot and collect dust if somebody doesn't pick it up and use it. So
Hmm.
I would say if that artwork speaks to you, then use it, and if it doesn't, then don't use it.
Hmm.
It's the same with any other deck of cards you buy. I mean, most of us, that's why I try to do card flip throughs when I get a deck. I'm kind of behind on getting those done too.
Hmm.
So behind on everything. I try to do flip throughs because to me it's helpful if somebody does a flip through on a deck and I'm maybe thinking of buying that deck if I go watch it so I can see
Hmm.
all the
It makes a
cards
difference. It makes a
and see if
difference.
all the cards speak to me other than the three that's shown in the promotional ad that maybe they just pick
Hmm.
out the three best looking cards and the rest of them look like crap or you go through them and
It
you look
makes a
at them and
difference. I've seen
it
decks
speaks to
myself that I'm very interested in, but once I see the flip through, I see I don't know, like it doesn't speak to me anymore. It's not what I thought.
yeah,
And the opposite is true too. I've seen ones that I'm not really interested, but at going through the cards, like they
yeah,
really resonate.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've given away many a deck because once I got it, it was like, yeah, it's just not working for me. I don't get anything off of it. I don't
Hmm.
feel anything with it, and so
Yeah.
um,
I don't like
I get
counterfeits
rid of
either.
them. And yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, I had bought a ton of cards from Timu when Timu first showed up on the scene because I
Oh
didn't know
yeah.
they were counterfeit. I just
Hmm.
thought because it was coming from another country, it was just cheaper. Everything's cheaper in China, right? Um, and then after I found out that they were actually counterfeit decks and the author wasn't getting anything from it,
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I felt foolish then. So
Yeah,
um,
I think we've all
I have
fell
several of
for
those
that.
decks that I've given away to other people who were interested in the
Mm-hmm.
deck, and I'm like, look, it's a counterfeit deck.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guidebook with it, but
It
you
is,
can have it if
sometimes
you want
I
it.
scroll online and look for a deck, and you can tell a lot of times because of the price, also the size. Because usually a lot of decks and oracles, they're of a tarot size or bigger, but
Yeah,
usually when it's playing card size, they measure like 10 by 6 centimeters.
yeah,
You
something
can
like that.
tell
Yeah,
it's yeah, but they're they're making them now tarot size, just like the original ones. They're getting much more uh
getting a lot.
refined, like the boxes and everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the best way
Um,
to tell most of the time is with the price. But of course, sources, places
Price,
that
and if you can only get the guidebook or something like that through the
hmm
QR code on
exactly.
the
Hmm.
box, because they don't print that out.
Hmm.
Um, I've slowly, once I found out they were counterfeit decks, I quit buying those. And then I just started slowly replacing those decks with the actual deck.
The original
Um,
ones.
Uh, a lot of times I'll still use them just because they're easier to handle because they're normal size, and
Mm-hmm.
I have small hands, so
Yeah.
it can make a difference trying to shuffle. But most of them now just sit and collect dust. I don't use them that often unless it's a deck that I haven't replaced yet, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the one I'm being called to use. And then it's like, okay, well, I guess if Spirit wants me to use it, then it's okay this time. They wouldn't tell me to use it if they didn't want me to use that deck. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I try to I try to be more conscious about buying decks that are actually from the creator of that
Mm-hmm.
deck.
Yeah.
It's the same way I feel about the guidebooks. I know a lot of people they get a deck of cards, they open it up, and they throw the guidebook away, and they never look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I can't do that. I have to read it front and back, go through
To
all of the
understand the
things.
concept of the
Each
artist.
That's the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
is why did you create this deck? What
Exactly.
was your
Uh-huh.
inspiration to create this deck? What did you channel it? Did you just was it just something that's always been on your heart that you wanted a deck like this? Was it something you created for yourself to use and others expressed an interest? So you mass produced it. I mean, there's all different reasons for why someone creates a deck. Um, and to me, it just gives me a chance to figure out what the author's intention was for that deck. What's the point of it? Why should I
Mm-hmm.
buy this deck? Invest my money in this deck, which is very similar to any other deck, but maybe the artwork is different, or some of the
Mm-hmm.
explanations are different, or if it's oracle cards, different, kind of a different feel for what direction that deck is going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Some decks are definitely more in the tone of a healing deck. You know, um, there are other decks that are just more fun. Just have fun with them. There's nothing heavy about those decks. There are other decks I've used that concentrate on um, ETs or intergalactic type things, and how we could look at it from a kind of a different point of view.
I have one or two
Um,
like that.
I do too.
Uh,
And there are some decks that are more into the spirituality of things. I have
mm-hmm.
several shaman oracle decks that I really like to use when I'm doing anything on the shamanic level. I've taken several classes with Danny Bathrobe Tarot, who's a shaman himself and teaches shaman classes. And so I have several shaman decks that I use when I'm going into that kind of a reading. It just kind of depends on
Mm-hmm.
what spirit tells me to use. It's if I'm getting ready to do a show where I know we're going to be doing readings, I'll go stand in front of the bookcase and be like, okay, what cards do I need? And
Yeah.
spirit will tell me which deck to get out
Mm-hmm.
and pull out with me. And like I said, there have been times I've been in the middle of drawing and I hear wrong deck, and I have to stop and go get another deck because for whatever reason the message they want to give isn't in the deck I'm shuffling. It's in another deck,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
Audra,
so
thank you very much.
oh, hi
Please
Audra.
follow Sherry. I have the description of her channel, the link to her channel on the description box below. Her
Please and
channel is
thank you.
amazing. Yes,
It's free.
it's free and fun
It's free and fun.
and fun. Let's go
I
to a
do all
lighter
kinds of
question,
weird stuff, so there's no telling what you're gonna find when you come to
but
my
they're
channel.
always fun. They're always fun.
A little bit of
Um,
everything. So,
so if you can have a tarot reading with any historical figure, who would it be?
what would it be? I think I would like to have a sit down with Jesus
Jesus. I don't think I heard
and
that one.
just talk to
Let's
him.
see.
I mean, I have talked to him. I've channeled him a few times, which
Uh
is
huh.
wild. Um, and he's a lot more open-minded and freer than people realize. he's not he's not what the churches have put him in that box. To
Right,
me, he's
right.
totally different. Or at least with me, he's totally different. And I've enjoyed when I've had conversations with him. It's a lot of fun. Um, he's got a great sense of humor, and
Jesus.
so I would definitely like to sit down and talk to him about it. What does he think about it? What are his opinions? What are some ways I can use it to better help other people to understand what he was trying to teach, which is to love everybody, accept everybody. That was his main message, to love and accept everyone.
So it'll
You
be
know,
more of a conversation with divinity than using divination with him.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I would want to pick his brain and just, okay, just how do you feel about this? Or, people have always interpreted this saying to mean this. What did you really mean? And
Mhm.
I would just really be curious to see how he felt about the different things. I guess if I had another person I would want to sit down and talk to about it would probably be like Benjamin Franklin or George Washington,
Yeah.
because their views and ideas of what they had for our country and
Pick
what their
one.
vision was that
Pick
they
one of
saw.
them.
If one probably would be Ben Franklin then,
Benjamin
because he
Franklin.
was a lot more involved in the creation of a lot of it
Mm-hmm. Very
than
creative.
George Washington. George Washington was a soldier,
Uh-huh.
and but he was also the first and most excellent example of what it is to freely walk away from power after a term and say, "Nope, I'm not doing it anymore. Pick someone else,"
Yeah.
because they were going to make him president for life, and he was like, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we
It's
created
like
here."
being a king, and that's
Right,
what they
and
escaped
that
from.
was the last
Mm-hmm.
thing they wanted.
Yeah.
That was the whole point.
Uh-huh.
That's what's always made us exceptional around the world, is the fact that every 4 years there is a peaceful transfer of power. Especially if it goes from one person to another person. Now, sometimes they get reelected, so it's just a rollover of
Mm-hmm.
another term,
And still, it's
but
with limits. Only 2 terms.
only 2 terms. And it used to not
Mm-hmm.
be. They changed that after FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. After his fourth term, they came back with, okay, yeah, we can't do this no more. We gotta put some parameters around this,
Uh-huh.
and that's when they came up with 2 terms only. Um, because he got elected 4 times. Of course, he
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of stuff done too, but
And it's a topic that's in the news right now. It's election. A comment that Donald Trump made um, that set everybody on fire.
what did he say now?
Well, at that Christian rally, that he made a comment saying that's important to vote because you don't have
Oh, you
won't
won't
have
ever
to
have to do it
vote.
again.
Yes.
Believe, granted, 99.9999999% of the time when the man opens his mouth, he's lying. That time he's not.
Mm.
Believe what he's telling you. You don't go into a job and say, I'm only going to be a dictator for one day. No, that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Um, and if you're telling people beforehand, no, go ahead and vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. Uh, Excuse me, that's not how this works. If you want to do that, go to another country.
Mhm.
Um,
Canada. She's
uh,
in Canada.
and exactly, and there are no term limits on senators or representatives. They, as long as they get reelected, they're in. We need to have term limits on them as well. There damn sure is a term limit on the Supreme Court. That definitely needs to be changed. this business of being selected and chosen to be a Supreme Court justice for life, that's brought us nothing but a lot of pain and a lot of
Mm,
trouble.
yeah, we'll
There
see. But that's
definitely
how we
should,
learn. That's how we learn.
yeah, and it's
That's
something
how
that
we.
President Biden is currently pushing right now is to
Hmm.
um, set up uh, term limits and to set up official ethic codes that they have to follow like every other judge, whether state, local, or federal. Every other judge in this country has an ethical code they have to abide by, not the
Hmm.
Supreme Court.
All right.
They've excluded themselves from that.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be a lot of what we, the American people, thought were laws that our government followed. Come to find out, weren't actually technically laws. They were a gentleman's agreement. We don't step over this line. We don't do this. We don't go there. Everybody shake on it. And, what they always called a gentleman's agreement. We shake on it. We're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got somebody like Trump that came in that just blew the doors off and was like, oh, well, it's not a law, then I can do it. And even for the few things that were law, he didn't care. He did it anyway.
Mm.
I think that really opened a lot of people's eyes up to wait a minute. We got to put some parameters around this nonsense before it gets completely out of hand. I mean, we're lucky that the system held for him
Yeah.
in 4 years.
Let's
Um,
just hope for the best, and that's
yeah,
how us as citizens have to make our point valid through the tools that we have available: self-expression,
right.
voting, and
And it's just like, telling somebody whose parents escaped to this country to give their children a better life, and then their kid grows up as an American, thinks they're American, they've only known this country, they don't know anything about their parents' country. They go and they join the military or whatnot, and to fight in wars to protect this country, and then to turn around and tell them, yeah, no, you're not an American, get out.
Mhm.
I mean, where is the standards there? I mean, especially if as a child you're brought here, like you have some say so in that, you know.
Mhm. Yep.
Um,
Totally.
and I've seen the citizenship test. I I've known a few people that have taken it, and I've seen what the citizenship test is like. And I guarantee you, probably 90% of the people in this country couldn't pass it.
A lot of history. I know people who've
It's
taken it.
Yeah,
Um.
it's hard.
Mhm.
I know several years back when my mom was still alive, we had a neighbor who was from Nicaragua, and he lived in the same building that we lived in. And I'll never forget, Mama had made friends with her. Of course, she made friends with everybody. And so anytime any of us were outside, if he saw us, he, hey, hello. He barely spoke English, but what little bit he could speak, he would really try hard to speak it correctly. He usually didn't, but that's okay. We just let it go. We knew what he meant. And I'll forget one afternoon he come over the house, knock on the door. He was like jumping out of his skin. We thought something was wrong. He's like, no, no, I'm an American now. And he had taken the test and had just been sworn in.
Mm.
And I've never seen such an excited person in my life until 6 months later when in 2012, when Barack Obama ran for his second term and he went and voted. And the man come to the house after he went and voted in tears and excitement because it was the first time in his life he had ever voted for anything.
Wow.
And the fact that he was given a voice to vote for who his leadership
Mhm.
was, it just put the whole thing in an entirely different perspective to me. Was to see the excitement and the pride and just the emotion around this 50 something year old man who was beside himself because he got to vote for who his president was going to be, and
Things we take for granted.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
The things we take for granted and don't even think
Mhm.
twice about. And it was like, whoa. I
Hmm.
mean, that kind of stuff makes you really sit back and think just how fortunate we've been in this
Yeah.
country.
Hmm.
And it's something that's you have to work for. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
neither here nor
So
there. So
we
let's
talked
move
a
on.
little bit of everything today. We talked
A
about
little bit of everything.
divination, politics, your personal story. It was a
And
lot of
I'm
fun
willing to
talking
learn
with you. Uh-huh.
anything new on divination stuff. If you can see somebody do something different,
Uh-huh.
I'm liable to be the first person to send a message and be like, "How you did that?" It's what is that? Is see, Ramon's already picking up my bad habit. He's throwing cards across the room. Um,
No.
I can't
So,
shuffle a deck of cards on air without dropping half of them on the
oh,
floor.
really? Now, it was a piece of paper because we're going to do a game now called
Oh,
This
that's
or
right.
That. Yeah, so I'm going to give you 10 situational questions, and you will choose between two tarot cards as the answer, and you will tell me why. All right?
Okay,
You ready?
I
I
think so.
usually, yeah, okay. So these are very new questions for the ones I've used in shows before. I've been rotating, but these are completely new. So let's get started. Question number one: you are at a high end boutique and your credit card gets declined. Will you choose the Queen of Pentacles, snap your fingers with confidence and say, "Try it again, darling, it's their mistake"? Or will you choose the Four of Pentacles and turn to the nearest person and declare, "Guess the universe wants me to save money today"?
Oh, definitely the Four of Pentacles.
Uh
Because I would never ever be able to look somebody in the face and say, "Oh, they made a mistake. Run that again."
huh.
No, I was likely would be the person that would be like, "Oh shit, I didn't have any money on that in that card."
Uh, but it happens sometimes with the network. Sometimes if you use your card,
Yeah, yeah, no,
sometimes the
yeah, I've
network is
seen it
off.
happen a million times, but my natural inclination would be, okay, somebody's telling me don't buy this today for
There
whatever
you go.
reason. So that's yeah.
All right. And Amanda says that's too funny because that's what just happened to me earlier today. So you went through a four pentacle situation. All right. Question number two. You are at a fancy dinner party and you spill red wine on a carpet, on a white carpet. Do you pull the three of cards and say, well, that's the way to add some color to the room? Or the four of cups and jokingly say, well, that's one way to get a refill?
Wow. I probably would be the fool and pretend like it wasn't me at all and, and blame it on somebody else. But I'm teasing. Um, I would probably be the Three of Cups.
Uh huh.
Be like, yeah, hey, it's a party time, man. You should, if you didn't want anybody spilling on your white carpet, you shouldn't have served red wine. That's your fault,
Uh-huh.
not mine.
All right.
That would
And we
definitely.
have, yeah, we have Hershey here. Hello,
Hi,
Hershey.
Hershey.
Great seeing you. Question number three. Your nosy neighbor catches you singing loudly off key in your living room. Do you pull the 10 of wands and give him a wink saying, that's just the warm up? Or you pull the 6 of wands, smile and say, the concert is at 7. Tickets are free.
The Six of Wands. Because I can't sing worth a crap, man.
That
It's
sounds
like,
like you.
okay, if you really want to hear me sing, come on over. We'll do it. And
Oh, God. All right.
I'll
Question
have you
number
running for the
4.
earplugs before you know what hit you.
Hershey says, sing louder.
Yeah, I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I'm serious. I cannot sing
Oh, I
at
like this
all.
comment. Someone says, Three of Cups say, drink together and clean together.
Yeah, there we go. That's it.
Love it. All right. And I'll just say, Six of Wands, victory is yours. There you
Yeah,
go. Question number 4. You walk into a glass door at a trendy cafe. Do you
I've
pull the
done that
star?
before.
You
I
pull the
walked
star
into a glass door.
and you say, and that's how you do an entrance. Or you pull the strength card and say, testing the glass resistance, you're welcome,
I'd be the star.
the star. So
Most
that's
definitely.
how you
I
make an
would
entrance.
I would make it. I would make a joke out of it. That tends to be my go-to. Is I try to make a joke out of it, so I don't feel like too big of a fool. If I can make everybody around me laugh about it, then I figure, okay, you got it.
All right. Question number 5. You walk into a room and forget why you came in. It happens to all of us,
I
right?
do that all the time.
Me too. I'm at work and I go to my office or something. I'm like, why did I come here?
I'll
And
go
then like
back to the other
mentally I
room to
go
see if
back,
I can
yes,
re-remember.
yes, and pick up something. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. So you walk into a room and you forget why you came in. Do you pull the hermit and say, guess I'm here for some deep introspection? Or you pull the moon and reply, it's a full moon thing. You wouldn't understand.
The moon. Most definitely the moon. And yeah, that's just the way I roll. I don't remember anything.
Uh,
I would definitely be the moon.
all right. Good answer. So,
Although a little aside to that, I was doing a reading with somebody once, and we were going through different cards, and she had pulled the moon card and was talking about, the normal interpretation of everything. It hides things, da 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 da. And
mhm,
the particular card, the deck she was using was the Light Seers deck. And in that deck, the moon card is you still have the two wolves on each bank and the water and the moon's shining above. But at the bottom of the water is a lady that's like
mm,
just like free falling down into the water. And the way the card is depicted, you see the moonbeams like shining down into the light, into the water, illuminating her.
mm,
And as the other person was giving the definition of, things are hidden, da da da, and I said, yeah, but you know what? I said, look at that card carefully. I said, the moon is illuminating what is going on. It just doesn't do it the same way that the sun does.
mhm,
It's showing you kind of a shadow illumination of what you're seeing, but it's still shining what it is you're supposed to be looking at or looking
mhm.
for. And I don't
That's
know why that
interesting.
was the first time I ever thought of that card that way, but it was like a real epiphany for me at that moment. And
That's
it
so
has always
interesting.
become one of my favorite cards ever since.
All right. Question number 6. You forget someone's name right after they introduce themselves. Do you pull the 12 cups and say, sorry, I was too busy being captivated by your presence? Or you pull the chariot and you move along the conversation by saying, names are overrated. What's your zodiac sign?
I would be the chariot and just be calling them sugar or sweetie or boo, which I do with everybody because I don't remember anybody's names.
I'm terrible with names. I'm
I do it at
awful with
work where,
names. I never forget a face, but with names,
yeah,
I'm horrible.
exactly. The face I've
Horrible.
got, the name is gone 2 seconds after you said it. Everybody at work is darling, honey, boo, sweetie, just, whatever. And the somebody new comes along and I say that and they get this look on their face and I'll hear somebody else say, no, she calls everybody that. Don't take it special. Doesn't mean anything.
God.
Exactly, Hershey, honey, babe, darling, sweetie, boo, which is a real, that's a real common thing down
Yeah.
here.
Stay
Um,
here for a second.
okay, something come up. You got to go. You got to run for it. Oh, hi, three shifting veils. I didn't realize you were here. Yes, I love my slumber party on Saturday nights. I have a ball. I think I have as much fun with that as y'all do. Well, hopefully he's okay. Let's see, what can we do? I can show you all my dragon better since he left me great big. So I can see there he is. He came
It's
back.
showing off your dragon
I was
again.
I was killing time. What can I say?
It's beautiful. It's worth showing again. All right. Question number 7. You're caught daydreaming in a serious meeting at work. Do you pull the sun and say, just visualizing your success, boss? Or the Four of Swords and smile and say, sometimes the best ideas come from the dream world?
Four. The Four of Swords. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I've been known to do that, just kind of zone out a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Y'all see me do it online all the damn time. When I get tired, it's like I can go, you'll see me, I'll get lower and lower and lower. And then I come back up, whoa, I almost fell out. Um, but yeah, that would definitely be me. I would be, yeah, no, I'm just,
Do you get
thinking
inspiration from
about,
the dream world?
deeply thinking
Like
about
for
what you're saying.
through your
Yeah,
dreams,
sometimes I
yeah.
do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Yeah.
remember them, I rarely remember my dreams.
Yeah. I think that happens to a lot of us, but then there's something throughout the day that triggers the memory of the
Yeah,
dream.
yeah. During the day, something will happen. I'll be
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh wait, I was just thinking about that," and then I have to think about where was I thinking about it. You
All
know,
right. Question number 8.
let's go.
Um okay. Question number 8. A random person takes the last piece of your favorite dessert at a buffet. Do you pull the tower devastated and throw shade by saying, enjoy it, darling? It'll taste even better knowing you ate my favorite dessert. Or do you pull the devil and pretend to take a photo and say, I just have to capture the moment when someone dared to steal my dessert? What's more
Wow.
like you?
Oh wow, that's a hard one. Because I don't think either one would be my first inclination to say. Um, I'd probably have to go with the tower.
With a
I'd
tower,
make some
you'd
smart
be.
ass remark. Yeah, just just because,
And what is your
especially if it
favorite?
was somebody I knew. But
Let's say you're among friends. Which one is
yeah,
closer to you?
if I was among friends, it would definitely be the tower. I
You'll be
would give them some
devastated, but
proof
you will let
about it.
them enjoy it. And what is
Yeah,
your
it's
favorite
like
dessert?
you throw a little bit of guilt in there. Enjoy that guilt sandwich. Go ahead.
What's your favorite dessert?
Um, chocolate,
Chocolate, chocolate cake, chocolate
chocolate.
in
It
any
doesn't
form.
matter what it is. Chocolate,
A chocolate bunny, a chocolate cake, chocolate Oreo, anything chocolate.
chocolate ice cream, chocolate candy, chocolate cake, anything chocolate.
Really, I'm
Milk
the
chocolate. I
opposite.
like milk chocolate.
I don't like chocolate. I can eat a chocolate cake, but eat a candy bar. There's something about the texture I find gross. I don't
You
know.
gotta let it melt.
No, no. I said even when I was a kid,
I
it's
buy the
something.
little melting wafers you can get,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can melt them up, and I get I have my peppermint sticks that I love. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll melt up a little bit of chocolate, and then I'll
Mm.
use my peppermint stick and just twirl it
Yeah.
around. And that's how I eat the give myself like a real sugar rush when I do that.
Uh-huh.
But just chocolate, yeah. My
There you
mother's rule was that you must eat chocolate every day.
Mm.
and you must eat ice cream every day. It was a necessity to life. And if you could make them the
Chocolate.
same chocolate ice cream, then you were hitting home runs. So
I like that.
she always
Chocolate,
had
a
chocolate
basic
and ice
life
cream.
necessity.
Yeah, that was her when at work. Like I said, she worked at Joanne's, and they wear those big aprons. They keep their scissors and all that kind of stuff in. And she
Uh
used to
huh.
keep a bag of Hershey's Kisses, and she'd walk around the store, random people in the store, would you like a kiss? And she'd hold out her hand with a bunch of Hershey's
Not this
Kisses. And
one.
oh, some people would say, "No, I want a real kiss." She'd say, "Okay," and she'd give them a peck on the cheek. So she
That's
had no
nice.
shame.
That's so funny. Question number 9. You realize you've been walking around with toilet paper stuck to your shoe. Do you pull the Knight of Swords and quickly say, just taking some extra tissue for the road, or the Two of Pentacles and balance it by laughing out and saying, I'm all about making a statement?
Definitely the Two of Pentacles. I'd probably
Mm.
make the statement of, well, at least it wasn't coming from my butt. So, stuck on my shoe isn't as bad.
All right. And the last one, who really missed the mark? Fashion advice by the lovers or survival skills by the 10 of swords?
Wait, who missed what mark?
The mark, the message. Who missed the message?
Oh,
The fashion advice by the lovers or survival skills by the 10 of swords?
10 of Swords.
Uh-huh.
That's yeah. That's not just you've been stabbed, but 10 damn times, dude. That's like, laying down and just letting them all come by, and
How do you get
that's like
stabbed like that?
overkill.
Was that post mortem? Because how can you get stabbed that way 10 times?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to.
Or you have to be
That's
like
what I mean.
agonizing, not being able to move, and huh?
You'd have to have somebody holding
Never
you
thought of
down to
that.
do that. They all struck at once. I don't know which.
Uh huh. An octopus, 10 hands,
There you go.
10 tentacles. Shari, it was awesome talking to you. I always
Thank you.
enjoy
I had a ball.
interacting with
This was
you.
fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I love your channel. Um, if anyone who's watching here or watch on replay hasn't come across Shari Voices of the Swamps channel, the link is in the description below. Please follow it. Her content is fantastic, and
A little
her
bit of everything.
weekends, yes, the slumber party, the late owl slumber parties, they're a lot of fun. I really enjoy
Yep.
it, and a
Anything
lot of
goes. You're
people.
welcome to come on
Hmm.
anytime you want. Just say the
Thank you
word.
very much. Thank you very
And
much.
that's what I think.
And
It's like whoever emails me first. You want company? Yeah, come on.
and
So
yes,
that was
and
designed to
Amanda
just have
say,
fun with. Yeah.
uh, Amanda
Oh,
saying she
thank you,
is great.
Amanda.
You are
We're
great, and
trying to
thank.
work out a date for us. So
Uh-huh.
um,
Oh yeah. I wanna have one with Amanda too someday.
yeah.
She's very popular now. So, Shari, thank you for everything you do in the community. Thank you for sharing your voice, your
Thank you
energy,
for
your
inviting me.
insights. Yeah, and everybody, thank you for being here, for sharing with us. And I'll see you in another episode of In Orbit With. Until then, thank you very much and
Bye,
blessings to
everybody.
all.
Thanks for inviting me. Mwah. Love
Thank
y'all.
you. Bye.